What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 385. And I apologize for not, doing last episode. Like I said, snowstorm. The power wasn't out too long, but that it was out for like 2-3 hours, and that caused a little bit of rift in what I was doing. And I was just like, you know what? There really wasn't much news, so I was like, let's just chalk it up as the storm having its issues. I was just dealing with. There's a lot of ice that was here in Atlanta. My mom had to go to work, so I was like trying to help her with the car and get all the ice off and the roads. And ultimately, she ended up not going to work because our road is kind of like up on a hill, so we were worried the car was going to slide and all kinds of shit. So I was just dealing with that throughout the whole day, and then the power went out, I believe, later in the afternoon for a little bit. It wasn't too long, but 2 to 3 hours, I believe, something like that. And luckily, it was, for the most part during the day, it was like halfway day and halfway when it started to become dark outside. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about, and it's mainly revolving around J. Cole. And there's something that I wanted to update for you guys if you guys never knew about this list that I have, and it is my classics list. And I know when I reveal this list and why I'm talking about it right now, some people are going to kill me for it, and they're going to be like, Quake, what the fuck is this classics list? But you got to remember, I first got to break down the definition of what I consider a classic, because I think everyone has they tweak their kind of definition for a classic. I think the general, definition of a classic is something that stands the test of time, that you can listen to still 20, 30 years down the line. That's essentially what a classic is. But I think for albums, for me, there's more criteria than just, hey, does it have replay value 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, whatever, down the line. For me, and this is what makes a classic very, very difficult to be put on my list, there has to be not a single skip on the album, not one track that I skip at all. That is a very, very high standard. To have a 10 out of 10, I need to not skip a single track on the album. And just recently, I ran into one album that I felt fit this criteria. So let's talk about my actual, classics list. And it features essentially artists from 2000s and 2010s, and that's it. Nothing from the 90s, nothing from, later on, earlier on. This isn't, though, final. This is my classics list right now. That's why I'm adding a new one, and this is why I'm talking about it. I did have 4. So these are the 4 ones to me that I consider 10 out of 10, perfect for me. No skip on this. It's perfection, and it has nothing to do with album sales, charting, reception. What it has to do is 2 things. I don't skip a single track on this album, and it has immense replay value year after year, and I can listen to it 5 years down the line, 10 years, whatever, and still enjoy it and still feel like it's a brand new project. So let's go over my classics right now and the one that I've added just recently. The first one, and this is no surprise, if you've known me, watch my content, this is no surprise at all. It is 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. To me, that is the ultimate greatest album of all time. There's no album that I ever consider better than that. I don't care who you're throwing at. To me, it's the best album that's ever been created in mankind and history and music, period. So there's nothing that ever will top that. I think it's the best album that's ever been made. It's perfect from top to bottom. No skips, nothing. It stands the test of time. So that's always been there. People have always known about that. The next one is J. Cole's Born Sinner. That album from top to bottom, no skips, even, and this is hard, I think it's called the Sincerely Yours 3 extra disc that was on there. Let me see. I believe it was called. I just want to make sure. Sincerely Yours 3. Because there's a deluxe version. I actually bought the physical of this where he included the mixtape as well, which was Sincerely Yours. I believe it's called Sincerely Yours. Yeah, Truly Yours. Sorry. Truly Yours 3. It had Miss America, New York Times, Is She Gon' Pop, N-Words No, and then Sparks Will Fly, which is also insane that all these tracks I loved. So this is an album that has 21 tracks technically, the deluxe version. Obviously the regular version had 16, but the deluxe version had 21 tracks, and I love every fucking track off this album. I was genuinely shocked at how much I love this album, because you'll look at my list and you'll know that there's no artist from that era that has a classic to me. So that's Born Sinner is the next one. Then Chamillionaire's Ultimate Victory. This is Chamillionaire's second album, the one that didn't perform commercially well. This album, I don't know how to put into words. It just has these moments where I'm just like, wow, like Chameleonaire is just, to me, I think he was very underrated. I think he went under the radar. He can rap, sing, melodics. He's got everything, man. He's got storytelling. He's got bars. And throughout this whole album, nobody's cussing besides the featured artist. And even then, I don't think Chameleonaire ever released The Ultimate Victory as an explicit album, ever. You can't purchase that album for, an explicit version of it, a dirty version, whatever you want to call it, because it just didn't have enough cuss words to meet that criteria. So that's a fun, interesting fact about the album, is that there is no explicit version. I don't think you can even find it online. I could be wrong. I do need to check in on that just because, but you can't find an explicit version of this album nowhere online, nowhere stores to purchase, nothing. So that's a cool fact about it. But yeah, he accomplished that album with no curse words, perfectly executed. It painted the perfect picture of where his career was at. I mean, Standing Ovation is one of those records where I'm just like, wow, like the shit that he says on there, Won't Let You Down, Pimp Mode, so many records, Rocky Road. Yeah, like that album to me is a classic. I just, I remember first hearing it, and even as a kid, I think I was like 12. And this album came out right after the Kanye West and 50 Cent battle. So Chameleonaire got really no like respect, like no proper push, because everybody was focused on that. He came like the week after that, which is unfortunate. He kind of got put in a time slot. And I actually talked to Chameleonaire about this. He only got put in that time slot because Universal has like a quota to meet with album releases. So they're just like, yeah, 50 and Kanye, okay, we'll just book Chameleonaire right after that. Like they just kind of treated him as some like, garbage artist that's just coming out, which is sad. But yeah, that's my third classic. If you haven't heard that album, I highly suggest listening to it. It is, to me, it's perfection. I think, there's really nothing. It's a 20-something track. So this is my thing. Like, if you got an album that is fucking 20, 21 track, basically a double disc, and I don't skip a single song from that, you deserve a 10 out of 10. You deserve it to be a classic to me. Like, that's very, very, very hard to do. Very hard to do. So that's a classic. Then the last one is Kevin Gates' Lucubracy 3. I don't know how to put this into words. When he dropped that project is right after he got out of prison. He dropped the Change Lanes EP, and then like probably 4 or 5 months later, I didn't think he was going to top Lucubracy 2. To me, I really enjoy that mixtape. Then he dropped Lucubracy 3, and I was just like, it literally starts off the rip with high energy, him talking about being in prison and how the warden, they threw shit at the warden that had to get like relocated and all this shit, and how he took a plea because they wanted to get him more time. And it just starts out very, and then throughout the whole thing, like you can see his evolution. So that album, just to me, I realized after a while, I was like, man, I have no skips on this. I got maybe one where I'm just kind of like fiddling back and forth. I believe it's the record Me Too. Maybe, but it's I sometimes like it, So to me, I'm like, if I had that little, like balance where I'm kind of going, but it's very strict, man, to me. That's why I don't have a lot of classics. With that, I announced on X and I think on Instagram, I've added a new classic to my 4 album classics. And this was a very hard decision, but I went back and listened to this album and I realized this is literally this guy's best album, and I didn't skip a single song. I realized, man, I listened to this whole thing and actually enjoyed it. And I was like, why isn't this on my classics list? Why did I never mention it? Now, I did have it really high up, like ranked up as high as possible, but I never had it as a classic. So congratulations to Eminem. His album Relapse, to me, is a classic. Man, that album is like a fucking movie. Now, what's funny about this album is when it first came out, I was one of those people that hated the accent. I couldn't stand this album. Then I want to say 5 years after its release, so it came out in 2009, in May of 2009. I want to say probably in 2014, 2015, I revisited the album for some reason. And I was just like, let me listen to this with the skits in there, with everything. I just want to listen to this because I think I didn't give it a fair shake because of the accent. The accent, we kind of moved on from it. Eminem shitted on the album. I squashed them accents to the ground, whatever he says. I'm fucking not afraid. But that album to me, man, it's like a movie. And the wordplay, the lyrics, the horror in it, everything about it is perfect. And I even love the bonus tracks. My Darling, Care for What You Wish For. My God. The guy was just, and I was crushed when he said there's no Relapse too. I was crushed. There's been leaks of records that were around the Relapse era, and they were amazing, man. Even the Relapse refill tracks are pretty good. I think probably 1 or 2 of them I don't like, but the regular Relapse Deluxe album with the 2 bonus tracks, Be Careful What You Wish For, My Darling, are legitimately perfect. And that's a, 21 track album as well. Like, to my surprise, all of my classics are really, really, really long. I think the Kevin Gates, Luca Brasi 3 is the shortest one with like 18 tracks. So yeah, you got My Darling and Careful What You Wish For. Yeah, that's 22 total tracks. Obviously skits in here. So if you actually take out the skits, which is 5 skits, it comes down to what? I don't know, 17, 16 track album. But it's fucking perfect. I realized, I'm like, dude, the only track that I ever bounced back and forth was Insane. I was born with a dick in my brain. Yeah, fucked in the head. Like, it was, but everything else is so, like, it's such a good album that's the only track I was like going back and forth. And I realized, man, this is actually a pretty good track. It's not that bad. Now, here's the thing. When I say these albums are classics, they have weak points, but they're not like, I don't skip them. Like, I'm not saying these albums are, every single track is fucking perfect and 10 out of 10. What I'm saying is I don't skip them, meaning they're good enough for me to listen to where I can enjoy them still. But they're not, you know, obviously there's high points on albums and low points, but the low points are still good, really good to listen to. So that's what I mean when I say a 10 out of 10. So it's not to say that Insane is this amazing Eminem record and I love it and that's all I listen to. It's definitely one of the weaker tracks on the album to me, but still, I realize, like, I don't skip it, man. Yeah, but it you know, this album, man, like Bagpipes from Baghdad, like, bro, like, you know, I was locked in Morella's sign cellar, you know, like, that shit is just like, I gotta go through these, like, this shit is just hilarious. Locked in Mariah's wine cellar, all I had for lunch was bread wine, more bread wine, and Captain Crunch red wine for breakfast and for brunch, and to soak it up in between snackers, crackers to munch. Mariah, whatever happened to us? Like, bro, I was just like, this guy just went psychopath on this. The fucking flow, the delivery. I'm sorry, man. To me, it's Eminem's best album, and Eminem Show is like so fucking close to me being a classic. I might even, like, same with 50 Cent's Massacre. Like, these two are like a 9.5 out of 10, 9.8. Like, they're so close. They just have like one track that I'm just like, so that's what I'm saying. This classics list can grow over time. Last time I included a classic was Kevin Gates, Luca Brasi 3, which was in 2018. So that's a long ass time ago. But, you know, I do listen to other albums. I do listen back to them, and then I do change my mind. I think, you know, Drake's Nothing Was the Same is one of those that I sit there. Kendrick Lamar, I don't know, it might be Good Kid, Mad City, and sometimes I'm going to Damn. And then there's like other, like Lloyd Banks with Hunger for More, Rotten. See, the thing is I don't want people to think that just because it's not a classic to me that it's a bad album. Like, Lloyd Banks fits the 9.5, 9.5, 9, you know, like that high-ass ranking. But it just doesn't get to the 10 out of 10, which is a classic. So they're great fucking albums. They're albums that I really, really love, but they have like 1 or 2 tracks where I'm like, eh. And that's why my criteria for classic is like, you know, it's just damn near impossible, man. To have no skips on an album is very hard. So I understand my criteria. That's why I don't throw the word classic around. Like, if I call something a classic, I truly believe in all of my hearts of hearts, this fucking project is a classic. So I'm saying that to say, yeah, congratulations to Eminem. He's included in my classics. And who knows, man, in the future, I'm going to listen to more albums as, you know, I might visit some albums back that I haven't listened to in a while, and I might feel different because, you know, we're human beings. We grow, we change, we like different things as time goes on. And, you know, I'm very well aware that, you know, when Relapse first came out, I hated it. I hated its guts. I remember only listening to Beautiful because he didn't have the accent on that track. I just hated the album. But then again, you got to think, in 2009 when the album came out, I was 14 years old. So I didn't really appreciate, you know, the horror flick. I didn't appreciate the bars like that as much as I should have. And, you know, I just kind of heard the accent. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to listen to it. And that's kind of how I chalked it up. But as I grew older, started appreciating more about, you know, just deliveries and stories and lyrics, you know, I went back to it and I was like, damn, this is a fucking movie. You know, so I always had it really high regards as one of Eminem's best albums. It's unfortunate Eminem looks at it, you know, in disgust, which he shouldn't. I think it is his best album, period. And the only one that comes close to me is Eminem Show. That's it. So I wouldn't be mad if somebody said, hey, Eminem Show, I prefer as the best. Hey, I totally agree. Everything else, though, it's like Marshall Mathers LP, nah. Slim Shady LP, nah. You know, and so on and so forth. But good news is I'm ranking J. Cole's albums. And kind of you got a preview of what is going to be at the top. But, let's rank his albums later down on this podcast because a lot of it's going to be, J. Cole related stuff. So let's get into the news. Enough of me talking about my classics list. A lot of news relating to Lil Durk and what's going on with his case. And a lot of it is crazy. They're alleging he has a $1 million bounty on Quando Rondo, which is Lil Tim, the guy who actually killed King Von, Lil Tim's friend. Because a lot of people associated King Von getting killed with Quando Rondo, but that wasn't the case. They had issues with each other, but it was Lil Tim that actually pulled the trigger and killed him. Let's go over the article. Ahead of Lil Durk's murder for hire trial later this year, we're reportedly getting some more specific information about the allegations against him. We knew this case stemmed from allegations that he planned a hit on Quando Rondo, but an exclusive report indicates that federal prosecutors are getting more detailed with their accusations. According to the report, prosecutors accused the Chicago rapper of placing a $1 million bounty on the Georgia MC back in 2022. This presumably comes from new court documents ahead of the trial. Reportedly, a witness will testify about the circumstances and background of the alleged bounty and the attack on Quando Rondo's life that supposedly followed, which allegedly connects to it. The Voice and his legal team reportedly asked the prosecution to lay out all the details in the government's case against him. This seems to line up with that, but still, prosecutors said that the defense team is not entitled to a roadmap of what they plan to argue in the trial. They instead pointed to an existing indictment and proposed evidence as enough information for them to proceed, arguing that they don't need to reveal their whole plan before the court opens. In addition, federal prosecutors pointed to alleged recruitment processes and rewards after the hit as clear notices for Durk. That's crazy, man. The fact that they got evidence. They're saying people are going to testify. Man, this is looking crazy for Durk, bro. Like, it's looking really, really insane, man. A $1 million bounty. That's why he was talking all that shit in those records, bro. Like, why would you? Durk, it seems like Durk got tricked out of his position because of what the internet thought of him. Because I remember when King Von died, dude, I swear to God, man, it was almost like bots were on his fucking page. Every comment was slide for Von, like encouraging him to do something because of King Von dying. And I think if any of this is true, obviously, I think he let that internet bullshit get to his head and trick him out of the position he's in life. I know King Von was your homie. I know all that, but you are the top dog. You are the breadwinner. You can't have one foot in the street and one foot in the music industry. That never works out. Never, never, never. Has there been any story of somebody having one foot in the street and one foot in the music industry and it working out perfectly? Not a single story out there. Not a single one. You can't point to me, not one. It's either ended in that person going to jail for the rest of their life, getting killed, or, just basically becoming nothing and then just going back to the streets and doing whatever they wanted to do. Like OJ the Juice Man. That was one of those people that had a lot of momentum. Gucci was pushing him. Like, he was on all these records. Everybody was a fan. They couldn't wait for the projects. Then he just kept going into the street life. Just wanted to be in the streets. Didn't want to be this famous rapper or any of that. He just wanted to be part of the streets. And even Gucci said, I tried. I tried to get this guy out of the streets to work with music and stuff. Just never really listened. If you would have asked me back in 2012, who I thought was going to be the guy that skyrockets and becomes this massive superstar. To a certain extent, I was right. But if you would have asked me at the time, I would have said it's Lil Durk, not Chief Keef. Because Chief Keef, no PR training. Guy didn't want to fucking answer no questions. Said one word during interviews. I'll never forget that Breakfast Club interview. Just barely anything. Very antisocial. Not marketable. Didn't show up to the Hate Being Sober music video. Just didn't care about his business. Didn't show up to certain shows to do concerts to get his money. Just didn't care. But he moved. He got the fuck up out of all this shit and laid low. Went to Los Angeles. Didn't get himself involved. And didn't fall for any bait. There was 6ix9ine in his prime in 2018 baiting this guy to go after him, to go attack him. And he didn't fall for that bullshit. He didn't fall for any of it. Lil Durk fell for it. Back then, Lil Durk was the well-trained PR guy. Lil Durk was the one making female-driven records. Like, literally, one of the first tracks off his debut album was Like Me, which is that record with Jeremiah. It was a female-driven record. When he was doing interviews, very clean cut, could answer questions, had PR training, was there. But he just couldn't stay away from all the bullshit. Had one foot in, one foot out. I thought that would have been Chief Keef. If you would have asked me back then, I'd be like, that's Chief Keef. The guy can't even fucking talk for a lick in interviews. Doesn't give a shit about his music business, nothing. But now look at Chief Keef. Yeah, he's not this. He never reached levels of Lil Durk with the music, because Lil Durk's got hit records, and I think streaming wise, he's by a long shot beating Chief Keef. But Chief Keef is still a legend. People look at him as a legend. When he drops music, people still listen to a certain extent. And he got out the way, man. He lives a comfortable life. He's doing his thing. He's a grown man. So it's a shame, man, because Lil Durk could have been really at probably Chicago's like real, like the one. It could have been Common, Kanye West, Lil Durk as the guys who came and did their thing in Chicago. Obviously, there's more people. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. But at that level, Lil Durk could have reached that level. And he was reaching that level. And I remember I made the argument on the podcast years ago with Sean, who used to be a part of the podcast. Shout out to Sean. He said NBA Youngboy, Lil Durk. I said, Lil Durk. Lil Durk's the one. He's got it. And he skyrocketed after that debate. Because I know Lil Durk has that in him, but he got tricked by the internet, by narratives, which is a fool's mistake. Don't get tricked by what the people are going to trick you out of position, try to trick you out of position every single time. Don't fall for it, because they would take your life and not fuck it up at all. He was in a position making probably 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million like it was nothing. And now look, this guy's facing potentially life in prison. Just dumb, man. Continuing on, though, Lil Durk's team has demanded removal of his music as murder for hire trial evidence. So let's go over this. The use of hip-hop lyrics in court has always been a controversial legal matter, and Lil Durk's murder for hire trial is the latest example of that. According to Complex, his legal team wants the court to remove a dozen lyric snippets, songs, and music videos from the government's proposed evidence against him in this case. Per a brief reportedly filed in federal court on Friday, January 23rd, defense attorneys argued that his music-based evidence pool carries an extraordinary risk of unfair prejudice. They claim that the prosecutor's arguments to use this material rest on direct evidence that is inexorably intertwined with their charges against Lil Durk. However, the defense team pushed back on this idea since no evidence confirms when these songs were written or who wrote any specific line. I mean, that's pretty fair. They say this music is irrelevant and misleading in the case due to its general subject matter found in other rap music whose artists are not on trial. Eric Nielsen, the co-author of 2019's Rap on Trial, Race, Lyrics, and Guilt in America, submitted a declaration in support of this brief that argues that the proposed evidence is of similar type content and substance as a large percentage of music produced by other artists in the same genre as the defendants. Also, Lil Durk's legal team had another argument to try to counter this musical evidence. They pointed out how prosecutors allegedly changed their list of proposed evidentiary music over time, causing doubt in their true weight. Defense lawyers believe this strategy aims to prejudice the jury to the content matters offensive in nature. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all that. That's I think unless it's like I've always talked about this before on the podcast, unless it's specific details like, oh, I killed this guy at 7:30 p.m. and I smoked a blunt at this time and you can see it on cameras and it's exactly that. Like, there's no, you can't present lyrics of somebody talking about random things that you can try and connect the dots with. There's no names being mentioned. I don't give a fuck. But if somebody's dissing somebody, mentioning names and saying, hey, I did this at this time, and, it's easy to connect the dots, I can see why certain songs could be added because some of these rappers do snitch on themselves. But that's like a rare, out of 98%, that 2% is when it's admissible, I think, in my opinion. Other than that, 98% of the time, no music can be used. That's bullshit. So I'm with that because you don't know who wrote the music, like they said. You don't know what it's entertainment at the end of the day. They could be saying all kinds of stuff. It's their image. They got to portray this gangsta. So they can talk all this kind of crazy stuff on the music. And it can be, chalked up as art. It is what it is. So I agree. Don't present this shit. There's no really solid evidence on any of it. But, hey, it is what it is. J. Cole has enlisted some of Drake's lawyers to fight this battle amongst the Cameron lawsuit. So let's go over this article. 2026 has already been a busy year for J. Cole. A couple of weeks back, he finally announced the release date for his long-awaited album, The Fall Off. He even gave his supporters a taste of what's to come with a cinematic album trailer and the first single from his project, This True Track 2. The LP is slated for release on February 6, 2026. That's not all that's been keeping him busy lately. However, last night he also unleashed a new collection of freestyles, the Birthday Blizzard, which we talked about, or we're going to talk about. Now he's gearing up to continue his legal battle with Cameron. Cameron first sued Cole and Universal Group in October of 2025. He alleges that he owed roughly $500,000 in royalties from Ready 24, a collab for Might Delete Later. Allegedly, Cole asked Cam to collaborate in November of 2021. He allegedly agreed under the conditions that he receive proper credit and control over the final cut. Cam also allegedly wanted Cole to join him for another collab in the future, whether it be a song or an appearance on his It Is What It Is podcast. In 2022, Ready 24 was recorded. 2 years later, with Cole having refused to honor his agreement to collaborate with Cameron on either a single or on the podcast, defendants nevertheless released Ready 24 on the album Might Delete Later, Cam's lawsuit alleges. Cole has enlisted the help of entertainment attorney Samantha W. Frankel from Mitchell Schringberg, and the firm represents the likes of Post Malone, Dr. Luke, Netflix, Dua Lipa, and many more. It even represents some big record labels and production companies as well as Drake. That's it. He just enlisted some lawyers that made headlines. That's kind of hilarious that that's even in there. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. To no surprise, 50 Cent is getting sued for his Diddy Netflix docuseries. The main surprise here is who is actually suing 50 Cent. I think everyone anticipated some type of lawsuit to come from this docuseries because it was a huge success. It had a lot of people talking about Diddy and looking at him in a different light, even though he was already looked at crazy from all the stuff that he's been accused of and has done. But this actually put more light to it and kind of put a backstory of how this guy became the way he became. And it interviewed some people that never spoke on camera, including a sex worker. The Diddy Netflix documentary is huge. It racked up 51 million views and ranked number 7 on Netflix's most watched shows. So clearly it was a huge success, being in the top 10. And that had a lot of people opening their eyes towards the whole Diddy situation. And we expected a lawsuit, some form or way to come. And we really expected it from Diddy and his team because they were threatening to do a lawsuit. But it has come from the actual worker that was interviewed in the documentary. So let's go over this article. A former worker allegedly victimized by Sean Diddy Combs is suing Netflix and 50 Cent over his portrayal in the docuseries Sean Combs' The Reckoning, claiming the film distorted his story with selective editing. Clayton Howard, a worker allegedly hired by Combs for freak-off parties with Cassie, offers some of the most disturbing accounts in the Netflix series. A 6-part doc produced by 50 Cent and released in December that's earned more than 51 million views. But in a new lawsuit obtained and first reported by Billboard, Howard says the show made a calculated misrepresentation of his story, namely by painting Ventura, aka Cassie, as a fellow victim when Howard says she was really an accomplice to Diddy's alleged abuse. So he's basically saying, listen, you guys painting Cassie to be this angel, but she was actually in on it. She was doing a lot of stuff. She was recruiting a lot of the people. The article continues and says defendants deliberately edited, distorted, and misrepresented plaintiff's account to portray Cassie Ventura, plaintiff's primary trafficker, as a victim while omitting and suppressing plaintiff's testimony that he was trafficked by Cassie, therefore inflicting severe harm upon plaintiff's reputation, Howard writes. Those allegations echo claims that Howard already made in a lawsuit he filed against Cassie last summer, in which he claims he was drugged, manipulated, and traumatized by both Diddy and Cassie. That case remains pending. An attorney for Cassie didn't immediately return a request for comment. In the new lawsuit, Howard is focused on Netflix and 50 Cent, claiming they fraudulently induced him to participate in the documentary by promising that a complete and truthful account would be told, then violated that agreement with the final cut. This calculated misrepresentation was done in furtherance of defendant Curtis Jackson's personal and business vendetta against Sean Combs and to create a commercially profitable narrative that silenced a documented trafficking victim to protect a documented trafficker, Howard writes. Howard's case was initially filed last month in New York State. On Thursday, attorneys for Netflix and other defendants moved to transfer it to federal court. Reps for 50 Cent did not return requests for a comment. A spokesperson for Netflix declined to comment. So that's really the gist of it. He here's kind of my experience with documentaries, because I made that 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Trying documentary. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. It's called How 50 Cent Got Rich and Nearly Died Trying. It's on YouTube, the full video, about 2 hours long. And from that little, obviously with the Netflix one, it's a whole different level. There's insane amount of lawyers involved, insane amount of people. So it's a whole different level, but I can speak to it at a smaller scale, and I assume that it goes like this on a bigger scale as well. I really don't see, there'll be differences in terms of scaling wise and how many people are involved, but essentially it's the same thing. When I did this documentary, I had people sign documents saying that I can use this footage. They give me release to actually use this footage in my documentary, and whichever way I want to. Basically says, hey, if I can paint you in a different light, I can paint you in this light, I can paint you however I want to. You're signing this and allowing me to use that interview in this documentary. Now, I had only one person not sign, is because that person had a miscommunication and thought that 50 Cent was a part of that documentary. And it's unfortunate. I wanted to have him in the documentary, but it just, didn't happen. I still have the footage, but hopefully in the future, I can get that release, maybe get 50 involved in it, and that would be really cool. But I'm saying that to say, if he signed documents saying, hey, my interview is released to them, there's nothing really he can do about it. And the same thing applies to me. Like, I could have painted, all of them in a negative light, and they couldn't do anything, about it. I could paint, Sha Money as this evil, or I could paint Sha Money saying evil things about 50, or make, I don't know, Red Spider say some, even though they didn't in the whole interview. I mean, if you watch the Sha Money one, he didn't say anything that I felt was disrespectful. But you can, that's the thing with documentaries. You can twist things and make it seem a certain way. And then you don't know 100% if the person's telling the truth, that is telling their side of the story. Because I know they have to say in the documentary they have to say words like, from my account, basically saying from my perspective, because you can't just flat out say something, because it could not be true. You could be just telling lies. So you could say, from what I remember, from my account, this type of stuff, so you don't get, sued directly. You could say, hey, it's from my perspective. This is what I see, and this is how I feel. But yeah, there's a bunch of barriers and stuff that you have to kind of go through. Luckily I had two friends that were lawyers. They weren't in the entertainment industry, but they kind of knew the boundaries of things. And they basically just told me, hey, don't spew out a bunch of fake information. You're doing a positive documentary, so the chances of you getting sued are so slim. It's like minuscule. I mean, anybody that would sue me for making a positive documentary about them would be really, just a bad person in general. But yeah, that's from my experience, that you have to have documents to release these interviews in the documentary. They have to have full, release. Now, is there potential different types of paperwork where, some of it can get released, some of this, whatever. It could be negotiations, but for the most part, I don't think he has a case here, because if he did sign those documents, they can do whatever they want with that footage. They can edit however they want. At the end of the day, the words came out of your mouth. They can portray it how they want to portray it in their documentary, and that's it. You pretty much lose creative control. You don't have creative control in this scenario. But that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. I was surprised that this would be the first lawsuit. I did expect some type of lawsuit, but I expected it mainly from Diddy's camp. I did not expect it from somebody that was, quote unquote, a victim, So let me know what you guys think. And we have more motion when it comes to the 50 Cent versus Fabolous potential battle that could happen. And this time it's relating to Lloyd Banks and Fabolous. Tony Yayo and Uncle Murder went on the Breakfast Club to promote their new podcast, The Real Report. And while they were there, they were asked the question, who is the better rapper or MC, Fabolous or Lloyd Banks? This is a question that's been happening online for about 2 weeks. This question about Lloyd Banks versus Fabolous was asked on the platform Bars on I-95. And when they asked this question, a lot of people sided with Fabolous. But if you look at the people that are getting asked this, you can tell why they sided with Fabolous, because, some of them have issues with 50, some of them don't like G-Unit, so on and so forth. But check that video out.
Fab or Lloyd Banks?
Spiz.
Fabolous or Banks? Fab or Lloyd Banks? Fab or Banks?
I'm gonna say Fab.
Fabolous or Banks?
Fab.
Okay. Fabolous or Lloyd Banks? I'm gonna say Fab. Fabolous or Banks?
Fab.
Fab or Banks?
Fab.
As you can see by that clip, it is very biased towards Fabolous. I mean, it's clear as day that they just edited in people that just sided with Fabolous immediately, which is, I'm sure they did that for a reason, just to get like, the clicks and people getting talking. And I even commented on it. That's where that question started from. And then Yayo and Uncle Murda appeared on the Breakfast Club and they got asked that same question. And here's what they had to say.
I'm going with Lloyd Banks.
No, yeah, yo, going with Banks.
Yeah, I'm going with Banks, and I'm going to tell you why.
Wow.
Banks about to go on tour right now, out the country. Who else is going on tour?
After this clip went up and made its rounds, 50 Cent decided to weigh in on this, and he had something very interesting to say. He posted the clip on Instagram and said, Fab versus Banks. They both write better when it's about girls. They both think they are better than everybody. They both never put in no work in themselves. They both are not likely to sell at this point in their career. It's a tie, ladies and gentlemen. They are the same. Now, 50's response is interesting because he's always compared Fabolous and Banks to each other. He's always said that these two artists are very good at writing female records and can say the wittiest, craziest things. Like lyrically, they're both up there, right? But Fabolous and Banks, to 50's eyes, don't really put in the work that they're supposed to. Like, have you ever seen battle rappers who have amazing lyrical ability, but they can't write songs to save their life? Well, that's this issue with Banks and Fabolous. It's not that they can't write songs to save their life. They're lyrical, great songwriters, but they just don't put in that extra work to be promoting their music. That's in 50's eyes, at least. Now, the only thing I disagree with 50 is him going at Banks publicly like this, because Banks has never disrespected 50 in the public eye at all. So I always disagree with 50 whenever he goes at Banks. I understand Buck and Game, they've had their own issues, so that I kind of, get. But when it comes to Banks and going at him, I always disagree on that end. I think it's just not a good look at all. I mean, Banks has always spoke highly of 50. Now, in terms of what I think, here, I'm going to keep it 100% with you guys. Fabolous has more hits when it comes to charts. Fabolous has got, I believe, more albums out. Right now, Banks has dropped, I believe, 6 albums from, The Hunger for More all the way to the Course of the Inevitable 3. So 6 albums in total. Hunger for More, Rotten Apple, Hunger for More 2, and then Course of the Inevitable 1 through 3. And then mixtapes, he's dropped an insane amount of mixtapes. Fabolous released 7 albums. So there's one more, but he has a compilation as well, a collaboration album with Jadakiss called Friday on Elm Street. So he's got a few more projects out, but Banks, obviously on the G-Unit side, has, done the G-Unit Beg for Mercy, TOS, Terminate on Sight. So that could be added as like a collaboration album as well. But in terms of hits, like if you just look at numbers, Fabolous wins. Fabolous just has bigger numbers, better streams, I believe more monthly listeners. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, okay, Fabolous wins. But lyrically and song structure and music overall quality, in my opinion, is Lloyd Banks. And here's why I say this, and this is no disrespect to Fabolous. Fabolous, I think, might have one of the best mixtape series ever, which is the Soul Tape. The Soul Tape 1 and 3, to me, is damn near perfect. It's immaculate. The first one's obviously the best one, but then the second and third one are pretty good as well. They're not bad. But here is where I say, why I say Banks. Fabolous might have one of the best mixtape series, but Banks has probably one of the best mixtapes, period, that has ever come out in hip-hop. And I'm 100%, I will put everything on it that the Cold Corner 2 mixtape is arguably one of the best mixtapes that has ever been released if we're looking at mixtapes only. It is fucking perfect. It's damn near perfection. I think I only skipped one track on there, if that. So on the mixtapes front, they're both really, really good. They both have a huge catalog that I really enjoy. On the albums front, though, I just happen to like more of Banks's albums throughout the whole thing. I like Fabolous's Loso's Way. That's one of my favorite albums from him. He was supposed to come out with the second one, but never did. But that Loso's Way album is very, very good. I mean, he was knocking stuff out the park when it came to that album. But the other albums are, they're all right. They're not bad. Versus Banks, where he has more consistency. And recently, he's actually had way more consistency than Fabolous. So that's my take on it. I do give it more to Banks. As far as lyrical ability, I've always said I'll put my whole house on Lloyd Banks. He's just that good to me. I think that Victory beat that J. Cole jumped over, that is a Lloyd Banks beat. Like I can't see nobody ever killing it like Lloyd Banks did on that Victory beat. But that's just my take on it. And 50's take is that they're the same person, man. They're lazy in their own right, and they, don't really, they can rap good, but they don't really produce much when it comes to their career and selling records and stuff like that. 50 Views things a little bit differently musically. He's, and he has a kind of a right to look at it that way because he's sold a lot of records and it's hard to do that. So it's really how do you view certain artists' careers and what do you respect more? Do you respect more the penmanship of an artist? Do you respect more of how big they've gotten? There's a lot of factors. So there's people that are going to weigh in on different factors. For me personally, at the end of the day, it's if you're looking at straight statistics, you can't debate that. It is Fabolous. He's sold more when it comes to, or at least right now, he has more streams. Album-wise, I don't know if he's sold more because right now Lloyd Banks is on tour. He's about to go on the European tour. Album-wise, I don't know because Lloyd Banks hasn't had his albums updated in sales in a while, and I believe Fabolous either. So we don't really know 100% album-wise who sold more. I know Lloyd Banks had a better first week sales than Fabolous has ever had. When it comes to first week sales, Fabolous never cracked over 200,000 the first week. Meanwhile, Lloyd Banks' first album did 500,000, almost 430,000 first week. And then even Rotten Apple, that was considered a flop in 2006, did 140-something thousand first week, which is actually Fabolous's almost best sales in his career first week. So as far as first week sales and commercially, it's obviously Lloyd Banks. But in terms of overall sales, overall streams, like comparing it to now, Fabolous is way higher when it comes to that. If you look at the numbers, Fabolous in total in streams, this is counting features, he's done everything, is at 2.7 billion. Then you look at Lloyd Banks, and this is total everything, he's at 1.5 billion. So that's nearly double Fabolous has than Lloyd Banks. Then obviously if you count, solo records and this and that, Banks's highest solo lead song is 132 million streams with Beamer, Benz, and Bentley. And Fabolous's highest solo lead as a lead artist is Into You with 347 million. So clearly Fabolous, as the years have gone on, has been more commercially successful. More people have listened to him. But Banks, is there. He's actually probably sold more albums if we actually look at that, despite, Fabolous releasing a lot more albums earlier in his career than Banks did. It's just that Banks' career gets overshadowed with the G-Unit stuff because of how big G-Unit was, that he's looked at as just a G-Unit artist, when in reality, he's had his own run. I mean, doing 500,000 first week is nothing to just laugh at and be like, oh, that's nothing. That's insane numbers. Back then, that was holy shit, you're going gold first week. That is huge success. Nowadays, if you do 100,000 first week, it's looked at as a huge success. But that's my take on it. I think Banks wins. Not by a long shot, but he does win overall. I mean, Cold Corner 2, like I said, that mixtape is one of the best that I've ever heard when it comes to mixtapes. But Fabolous's soul tapes are really amazing as well. So it's a hard debate, so I understand why that debate is brought up. They're very close to each other when it comes to a lot of things, from statistics to lyrically to this to that. But like I said, I'll bet my whole house on Banks, PLK. Speaking of lawsuits, Pharrell got sued with his former co-producer. And Pharrell has basically responded to the allegations. Let's go over this. 2026 is shaping up to be another successful year for Pharrell. Unfortunately, however, there seems to be just one thing in the way. Earlier this morning, it was reported that he's going to be sued by Neptune's collaborator, Chad Hugo. Hugo, who is also a member of the band NERD, alongside Pharrell and Shay Haley, accused the Virginia Beach-born performer of financial impropriety. Allegedly, he has not received his appropriate share of royalties in connection with the Neptunes and Nerds album sales and released music, as well as distributions from touring income and various merchandising deals. Hugo calls the musical ventures two of the most influential music forces of their generation. In the suit, he adds their innovative genre-blending sound helped shape the modern hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Pharrell Williams engaged in a self-dealing concealed material information and diverted revenues owed to plaintiff. Brent J. Leachman and Hugo's attorneys alleges such willful and fraudful and malicious conduct warrants the imposition of punitive damages. Pharrell's legal team has since issued a response to the lawsuit. According to them, a standard accounting review is already in progress. The lawsuit filed is premature as there may not even be a dispute between the parties. Their statement continues per USA Today. If the accountant review determines that money is owed, the appropriate party will pay it. Pharrell has consistently acted in good faith. He has a great respect for Chad and looks forward to resolving this in a way that honors their shared history. Hey, shout out to Pharrell, man. That's a great way of responding to this. News of Pharrell's response to hit the suit to the lawsuit just comes a few days after it was announced that he'll be taking the stage at the 2026 Grammys alongside Clips. Very, very cool. But that is a proper response, man. So a lot of people are giving Pharrell flack saying, why aren't you paying this guy, blah, blah, blah. But he's saying, hey, we'll go over the accounts. If there is some money missing, I'll cut you your check. And that's it. Done. Simple. I wish more fucking lawsuits and disputes were like this. I wish more people had integrity like this. You know, at least that's what I'm reading. I hope that's the surface level of things. But yeah, that's it. Let's see what happens moving forward. All right, so let's go over this Kanye West apology. I'm not going to read the full thing, but the gist of it is like he's basically says, this is, wasn't me. This very lengthy apology in which he blames his infamous car crash for his bipolar diagnosis. He admits to being maniac on numerous occasions and wrecking his own life during these various episodes. Yeah, it's a long thing that he wrote out. Very, very long. With that being said, I think this is the last straw for Kanye. I think after this apology, if somehow he goes on some crazy debacle, of these crazy things that he says and rants, and some of it, hey man, there is some truth to some of it. Let's just say that. Not saying that he's 100. Anybody that goes on these type of rants and stuff, they're telling some truth. I'm not saying this guy was 100% correct. Obviously, there's a lot of shit that he's just flat out. He was just saying that's insane. But there are some things that he was saying that's insane about the music industry and how they treat you like this and that. So I agree to a certain extent to that. But there's a lot more other stuff that I didn't agree with. With that being said, Kanye's, chance has pretty much gone to the wayside. If this is it. This is the last apology that people are even going to consider or even care about or even talk about. It comes on the heels of him announcing his Bully album, which now got pushed back to, I believe, March. And he signed a deal with that Gamma independent or record label Gamma. It's supposed to come out sometime in March. That's when he changed the date. Which I don't know. I don't understand. Could somebody explain this to me? Because I don't know what the Kanye West Bully album. At one time it was out on YouTube. You could listen to it. He removed it. Now he's talking about it's coming out again. I don't know if he's redoing it. Because Kanye has these moments where he just drops something and then he wants to redo it and stuff. I don't care about all this other stuff. What I care about is this guy getting back to just being one of the greatest ever. And that's just the reality. This guy is one of the greatest musicians of our time, whether you like to acknowledge it or not. I didn't acknowledge it for a while because obviously he kicked my favorite rapper's ass in the sales battle. So I kind of looked at him sideways and was like, I don't really like this guy. But as time went on, Kanye is one of the best, just period. I want him to get back to just making great music. I miss that about him. I miss, listening to albums that were creatively done in a way where it wasn't all over the place, where he just wasn't, and releasing things on random ass platforms and just the access to them. You have to buy this thing that was like a DJ toy or whatever the fuck it was, a speaker. And then, just get back to just doing music and making some classic shit. Because here's the thing. Had Kanye not gone on this kind of trail of whatever he was doing, I do believe he would have been going head to head with Drake. Even though Kanye's been out since 2004, he would have been the guy that's, from the earlier 2000s battling Drake for dominance. Clear as day. Now, Eminem is doing that too, but Eminem, he holds a certain pocket of fans that don't match the Drake and Kanye fans for the most part. It's rare where I find a Drake fan that's a huge Drake fan that likes Eminem like that. Sometimes you do. Not saying that they don't. Not saying they don't exist. But those Kanye and Drake fans, they can intertwine a lot, and that kind of battle would have been, or that kind of dominance, because I know Kanye was really looking at Drake oh, he's taking my spot, and I'm trying to, keep my spot as this old veteran. He's this new guy. So, there's a lot of back and forth with that. But that's the part of Kanye that I miss, where he could have easily been that guy that could have had this insane longevity. But he just kind of got lost in all this stuff that's going around him. And I think after, obviously, the death of his mother, he changed completely, which, hey, man, I lost my dad last year, so I understand. It's that losing a parent, your life forever changes. That's just the reality situation. He handled it in a way that he handled it, but he's got kids, man. He's got kids that look up to him. He's got his own family, so do your thing, Kanye. Get back on track. I would love to see it. And, Kanye having these little rants and stuff is Kanye West. I don't mind that here and there. But he just went off the deep end to where it just got, insane. just don't go too far off the deep end. That's all I'm saying. Do some rants that are interesting because he does say some real shit sometimes, you know. It just is what it is. Sometimes he is right. Even, you know, a broken, what do they say? The quote is like a broken clock is right twice, at least. So that's basically Kanye. You know, sometimes he says some outlandish stuff for the most part, 80% of the time, but the 20%, he's saying some real shit. So I'm excited. I hope this is actually the end, you know, and he actually is taking this serious as an apology because he's apologized before and then kind of went back to what he was doing. So I'm excited for that Bully album. I want to rank Kanye West's albums probably before the Bully come out. I wanted to wait after, but it is what it is. J. Cole has released a surprise EP/mixtape on his website, thefalloff.com. On there, the mixtape is available for purchase, but the catch is you get to choose the price that you want to pay for this tape. It can be $1, it can be $100 million, whatever you feel like paying. The only issue with it is when I tried to go on there and pay my $1, because I was only going to pay for $1 for this. I'm a cheapskate. When I was going to pay my $1, the website didn't even work. So the mixtape has been uploaded all over on every platform from YouTube to whatever streaming that you can think of. So it's up to you if you want to pay that $1 or whatever amount you want to pay for J. Cole. Either way, the tape is out and it features 4 freestyles over classic hip-hop beats from Biggie's Victory to Who Shot Ya to a few other ones. And the tape has this like old school mixtape feel with DJ Clue all over it, Who Kid as well. And if you look at the tape cover, it looks like a classic, like late 90s to early 2000s mixtape. But on this tape, he is addressing quite a few people, and not really directly, but you can tell who these bars are going at, or at least you can, for the most part, speculate. And I'm going to break down each and every freestyle and each bar that I think is going at someone, because there's been a lot of talk, of course, with J. Cole bowing out to the whole Drake and Kendrick battle back in April 2024. People have called him out saying, I don't want to hear those aggressive bars about you being the best because of that. Even Fat Joe recently said that. Charlemagne addressed it. So that talk has been brought up again, which to J. Cole, apparently it fuels him even more to prove that he's the best. So let's go over the first track. The first track is titled The Bronx Zoo Freestyle over the Victory Instrumental. So immediately within the first few bars, J. Cole addresses who I think is Fat Joe and Charlemagne. Basically any rapper or entertainer who has a podcast, who does a lot more talking than rapping. Besides Charlemagne, obviously he wasn't a rapper, but Fat Joe and Jadakiss have their podcast, and Fat Joe, you know, blatantly said, hey, I don't look at J. Cole the same. I don't respect him the same.
Do we look at him the same, being that they screwed his head off the big three?
You hear his bars, all of that don't matter.
It's over.
He's coming crazy.
'Cause let me tell you something, man. They screwed his head off the big three. Is he in the big three?
I don't like that terminology,
It's cool.
so give me a pass. But they better screw his back on after you hear
Listen,
him.
let me tell you
He's
something. The
coming
Locks,
crazy.
no matter what you call it, in your biggest heyday, no matter what,
Right.
you
It's
call.
all about the music. You going off the internet.
Let me.
Where
Now
you
I'm not
push
going off
play.
the internet. I'm
His
talking.
head ports got to go back on where
I'm talking about hip hop, right? So what I'm saying to you is, you guys were miniature compared to 50 Cent. Just sold 30 million records. You went at him. You went to the yard with the sword.
Answering your own question.
What's that?
He could sell 100 million. The bars and the power of the people in the street made all of that shit irrelevant.
He didn't come outside to Jada.
It's all in the music. You
Okay,
talk
I
about
gotta
knocking them out the park and this and that and that and this.
I gotta hear it.
He got some.
So here are the bars where I think he's addressing Fat Joe. He says, somewhere along the way, I hate to say we lost shame. Grown men peddling gossip of all things. I remember when it was rapping and ball playing. Now the bread and butter is yapping and parlaying. So on this, you know, a lot of streamers, a lot of people who voice their opinions, the big ones at least, they are like pushing these insane gambling websites, and you can see it all over the place. I'm not going to mention them, but yeah, they do all these, gambling, parlaying, and putting all these bets on things and pretending like they're making a lot of money, whatever. So that's that. And then he's talking about grown men gossiping, which, you know, instead of rapping, what he says in the bar, you know, I remember when it was rapping and balling. You know, I think he's addressing Fat Joe because he was at one point a rapper. Now he's on a podcast basically talking about other people and whatever he might say, making up fabricated stories like the whole Young Buck situation, so on and so forth. But continuing on, J. Cole says, Oh, man, your name is a big conversation. Max deals for Luka Doncic lobbing to Ayton. No, nowadays you can make a grip commentating. If you master two skills, either riding or hating, just look around. The hating and is blatant. Tell your mama your ticket to finally live out of her basement was found in one magical word. It's engagement. So he's basically saying a lot of people just go out there and talk smack just to get clicks and retweets and posts and whatever to try to make whatever money that they can make. And I agree, it's run rampant to a certain point where you can tell certain people are just saying things just so they can get clicks. And then what's interesting is as the bars go on, he basically brags about being the best again, which is the thing that people were saying, I don't want to hear from him because he bowed out of the battle. So he says throughout like a lot of bars, he says, it's hard to write as the God does. Y'all toddlers to me, stop bothering me. Young Simba, some guys threw some hate my way. Only thing they should say is, Cole, you like a father to me. The top, and this is where he addresses the big three and says, the top ain't really what I thought it would be. And so I jumped off and landed back at the bottom and restarted at a level where I wasn't regarded as much, just to climb past them again and tell them all to keep up. I love it. So here, he's saying, listen, you guys might have kicked me out from the top, but I climbed right back up, and now I'm going to be zooming past these guys again. Basically saying there's no competition, which is the whole big three argument. And, him bowing out is where, a lot of people were like, he's not part of that argument anymore. And then he addresses the apology directly, and he says, look, hey, matter of fact, go on your phone, add me on IG. I used to be top C. The apology dropped me way out of the top 3. No problem. I'm probably my best when they doubt me. And he says, watch me. So right there, he's saying, listen, you guys can say I ain't that guy, but hey, we'll see when I drop this album if I'm really that guy or not. So that's the first freestyle. He addressed the apology. He addressed, I think, Fat Joe, and he addressed a lot of commentators, hip-hop content creators like myself, or, just people who have, voiced their opinion, who have huge platforms. He just basically said a lot of these people are just saying this stuff for engagement, and that's all. They're not really doing anything. They're not contributing anything. So he addressed streamers, hip-hop commentators, Fat Joe, and the apology. The second track is titled Golden Goose Freestyle. It is a freestyle over the Black Rob Can I Live instrumental. And what's interesting about this track is there are some lines where I think he's addressing Drake. And the reason why I'm saying I think he's addressing Drake is because there was some tension between J. Cole and Drake because of J. Cole bowing out of the battle. And that made Drake look at J. Cole a little bit sideways. And even on Family Matters, he said, Cole losing sleep on this, it ain't me. He's basically saying, listen, like, this guy is stressed over a battle, but I could care less. I want to go at it. So I think he took J. Cole bowing out not really the best way. And I don't think they're even cool with each other anymore. I think after that, they haven't really, there's nothing that they've been, kicking it anymore. They haven't done anything together in a while. Let's go over this track. And these are the bars where I think he's addressing Drake, because Drake is known for this mainly. So this is what J. Cole says. Nah, I'm on top. You can't knock me off my spot. F yachts. I won't stop till the boat's a cruise ship. Till the whole world knows who's got the gold acoustics. Only then will I split like I co-produced it. A lot of rappers make dough, then prone to lose it. For crumbs, dumb guys sold their soul to Lucian. Universal distribution, but I own the music. Now, who do we know to have a huge deal with Lucian, a.k.a. Universal Music Group? Who is the guy who signed a major $400 million deal and has bragged about it on every single song? It's Drake. So this could be directed at Drake, saying this guy sold his soul and is basically a slave for Universal, because a lot of people speculate that the reason why Drake tours a lot and drops so much music is because he has to recoup them that money that they give him. And basically that's like being a slave, essentially. It's a really rich slave, $400 million slave, which I wouldn't mind being. But, there's artists that get into those deals where they have to consistently tour, consistently drop music because they got to recoup, the label's money. And when you think about it, Drake has dropped essentially every single year to a certain extent, Now, this could also be bars about just rappers doing dumb deals and getting caught in 360 deals. That also could be that. So it could be Drake, it could be that, but I think it's more towards Drake because of the way things ended with the whole apology thing, and I think Drake took that, the wrong way. And a lot of people have looked at his deals as like slave deals. But yeah, that's my take on it. And then later on, he addresses artists who fake their numbers through bots and streaming. And this is something that could really be applied to a lot of artists who boost their numbers. He says, from poison of all different sorts they using. If the streams say you winning, why your tours is losing? When the math ain't mathin', of course you're juicing. That means the bots is boosting. So he's basically saying, listen, you got all these crazy streaming numbers, but when you try to do tours, nobody shows up. And that's a great indicator if somebody is boosting. Because if somebody's doing like 100 million streams, or 500 million streams or 1 billion on a song, and their tours are barely bringing in 2,000 to 3,000 people, something's going on where things are getting boosted in streams, which is sad. In today's time, it's really hard to tell who's actually pushing the right numbers. And then he continues and addresses more people talking bad about him for basically apologizing. He says, despite every bit of dirt thrown my way, there'll never be a stain on my name. It's why I walk around dolly as if none's changed. Without a chain on my frame, guys could never know the pain of Jermaine. And that's it for that track. The next track is called Winter Storm Freestyle, and this is over the Who Shotcha instrumental. And on this track, he doesn't, in my eyes, diss anybody or address anything. He just spits some crazy bars, so check that out. And the last track is titled 99 Build Freestyle, and it samples the Money, Power, Respect track by The Lox. On this last track, J. Cole addresses a few things, the fake streaming once again, and then he says something on the track that is interesting. He says, if real hip-hop lyricism is back, JID should be selling, because JID is a very lyrical rapper, and the narrative that lyrical hip-hop is back, and that's the focus after the whole Drake and Kendrick Lamar battle, and people are saying after Kendrick won, the focus was more on real hip-hop music, and he's saying, listen, if that's the case, then that should be it. So let's go over some of these bars. He says this, these guys swear they're doing numbers, but it's just more to the story. You bust it down, it's by the streams and kids ordering merch. He's basically saying, listen, these guys don't really do numbers. They always package their merch or vinyls with them to try to sell, these records. And a lot of, artists have been accused of that and caught of doing that. Going down, he says this, I stayed at myself. I ain't talkative. Y'all taught me not to have a heart-to-heart with a monster. They're all too heartless. Like the skeletons in these fellas locked in the closet. I smelt it from the jump because it felt too awkward around it. I fell back, my dog in heaven pushing Hellcats. Will tell you from the beginning, I wonder how could I dodge it. The beef ain't real, so ain't no reason to squash it. The game ain't neither, so it's easy for me to pause it. Now, in these bars, I think, and this is this is just my theory on this, is that he is addressing, the Drake and Kendrick battle, and that they're pulling basically skeletons out their closets of this person's this person's that, and the whole back and forth of what Kendrick was and what Drake was, and the accusations made back and forth. I think he looked at that and was like, I don't want to be involved in these guys having these, accusations and trying to pull skeletons out of each other's closets. And then on top of that, he said the beef with these guys, with at least my issues with these guys is not really real. So there's no reason to squash it. It's not that serious. And then he says the game, hip hop ain't even a real, place. So it's easy for him to just get away from it because there's a bunch of fake people in it. And then in these lines, he addresses the state of hip hop and the rap game in general. Rays from the flows radiate the globe, melting snow on this frozen tundra. Known as the rap game that's been overcome with loads of marketing plans based on randomly dissing and hating on the next man. I understand. Imagine working hard as you can on this album you planned, hoping it changes your brand, but as soon as you drop it, the world's ignoring again. Got you wondering why till you start noticing the trend. Drama enhances the attention brought to the fans on popular channels, so you want to hop on the band wagon of battle rapping and throwing shots in a jam. I had my chance, but I dropped it, which means my only option is to do the opposite thing, which is leave with the skull. So he's saying, listen, these artists, and he addressed this on, I think, Middleman. He says, if I diss somebody, it's going to be legit. It's not going to be for click. It's not going to be, I'm just paraphrasing, but he says that in Middleman, that he's always, if he's battling somebody, it's not just for the clout. It's legitimately they have an issue or they're battling each other. So on here, he's saying basically these artists call out names and try to start battles to try to get some type of attention for their album that's struggling, which has always been part of the game. I think if you make great music and you do that, it's a different story because you can still generate interest even without battling. But there's some people that just can't generate no interest, so they start battling. And there's a few I can name off the top of my head right now. And this is where J. Cole addresses the whole hip-hop, pure hip-hop is back. He says, if hip-hop is back, JID should chart platinum. Anything less than that, it means y'all capping. The fall off is dropping 2-6, stop asking. So in here, he kind of does like two cool things. He plugs his own artist, JID, and says, hey, if real rap is back, he's a lyrical real rapper. You guys should be making him platinum. He should be selling 1 million copies, no problem. And then he kind of throws himself in there and says, listen, this is real rap. You know, y'all go cop this if you guys actually like real rap. Because the theory, like I said earlier, is that, at least the narrative after Kendrick won this Drake battle, in the public's eyes, at least that's what most people say, Kendrick won, that real rap is back. We're focusing on bars, and that's it. We're tired of these melodies and people not really, you know, making any interesting bars or not really rapping. And he's saying, if that's the case, okay, well then all these rappers should be selling records. And I agree. I think at that point, if you're really loving real rap like that, you know, purchase those real rappers that rap. But yeah, after that, he basically says, hey, I like, you know, certain parts of what's going on. He says, all these old rappers getting bags, podcasts, and it's beautiful, which is kind of contradictory to what he said in the beginning, which I think he's actually going at Fat Joe. But there's a lot of rappers podcasting and making money. You know, there's Nori, there's T.I. to a certain extent. There's quite a few, you know, they've done podcasts that are doing well. So it's not just Fat Joe and Jadakiss. But Jadakiss on their podcast at least shows love to J. Cole. But yeah, that's it for this mixtape. It's 4 freestyles. Very dope, man. I think he killed every single track. I mean, J. Cole, you know, to a certain extent, I consider him, I have him in my top 5 of all time to sometimes where he just doesn't drop as frequently. That's one thing I don't like is the consistency in music isn't there. And then he's had, and I'm going to actually rank his albums on the podcast. He's had albums where I'm just like, damn, like it's so far off from what he does. He has like great albums and even a classic in my eyes, but then he has like albums that are just kind of all over the place. And I'm like, what are you doing? But that's at least my take. I think J. Cole is one of the best doing it. I think he's going to prove with this album he is one of the best, if not the best, possibly ever. Because he is rapping like he is at a next level with this stuff. I mean, it's just straight bars, and it's scathing, and it's fire. I just hope he directly goes to some people, man. I would really like that because it's like a lot of people have been talking about, you know, oh, he bowed out. He's not really that. He's not really about that. Like, I would like him to address people directly about that. I think that would be really, really interesting. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of my takes on these bars. Let me know what you guys think of these J. Cole tracks and what you're expecting from the Fall Off album. Finally, we are here. Let's rank J. Cole's albums from worst to best. I want to make it very clear. I am ranking only J. Cole's studio albums. No mixtapes, no EPs, none of that. Right before the Fall Off comes out because, you know, who knows? That might be an album that might take one of these spots, or it might be one of J. Cole's worst. I hope not, at least. So out of the 6 albums, I'm going to start from worst to best. And at number 6 is For Your Eyes Only. The reason why I give this album the worst in J. Cole's ranking is because the concept of the album is great. He's talking from a friend's perspective of a drug dealer. The storyline, you know, he ends up dying at the end. And it's an album only meant for his daughter to listen to when he's dead. You know, that's why it's titled For Your Eyes Only. Like, the concept is great. It is an amazing concept. However, the execution is poor. It is not done well, at least to me. None of the tracks are memorable at all besides Neighbors, which actually relates to J. Cole's real life, which is kind of, you know, ironic. Even though the story is about a real life friend he had, he just named him differently for privacy reasons, stuff like that. Neighbors is the only good track I like off this album. That's it. One track off this, let's see here. How many tracks is on this album? I went back and listened to it recently, and there's nothing that I like from here, man. So yeah, number 7, Neighbors. That's it. 10-track album. Not good at all. Easily J. Cole's worst album to me. And like I said, the main reason is, you know, there's artists that do albums where they have great concepts, but they don't execute it right. And there's albums that, you know, there's artists that do albums that have great concepts and execute it right. Another example of somebody with a great concept that didn't execute right is Eminem with Revival. Great concept, talking about political things, you know, deep diving into the differences between a white person and black person and different cultures and how if he was white, he wouldn't get shot. If he was black, he would, so on and so forth. He has records like that throughout the album. It was just badly executed, man. Bad production, bad songs. So it's the same type of thing here, where it's a great concept, great idea, but the execution is bad. So to me, this is J. Cole's worst album by a long shot. I mean, I'm never going to take this out of the worst. It is going to stay here. By the way, this list is pretty solid. There's only 2 albums on this list that I flip-flop sometimes, but it's rare that I do it. But this is basically how I'm feeling right now. And I know this album is forever going to be at the worst, unless the fall off ends up being worse, which I highly, highly doubt. The way J. Cole's rapping right now, I highly doubt it. So number 6 is For Your Eyes Only. That's the worst J. Cole album. Number 5 is KOD. This is an album where, and mind you, this is not back-to-back. I believe it's back-to-back. Let's see. KOD dropped right after For Your Eyes Only. I believe so. Yeah, so For Your Eyes Only, then KOD. So this is a back-to-back bad albums. This is where I felt like J. Cole was nowhere near Drake and Kendrick. Kendrick just released Damn, arguably one of his best albums ever. Drake had released Scorpion, which I felt was an amazing album, even though it was filled with tracks. It still was a great album. So this is where I felt like J. Cole doesn't hold a candle to them at this point. I felt J. Cole was just getting worse and worse. I don't know what to expect from him after that. I was like, this guy just isn't making great albums right now. He had 2. And usually my rule is if you have 3 back-to-back bad albums, I don't really care to check for your music anymore. I just don't. So he was 2 strikes, and then he came out with, obviously, the off season, and I actually enjoyed that album. But going to KOD, the concept of this album was great, obviously, but like I said, the execution, some tracks, I was like, man, this is not a good album. I would hear this album all over the NBA. I remember hearing this all over the NBA playoffs. I believe it was a song ATM. Run It Up. I forget how the song goes. But yeah, he had some great tracks. 1985, Intro to the Fall Off, great record. I believe I liked ATM, The Cutoff, Motive. So there's some records I enjoyed, but overall the album was like, I didn't really care for it that much. It came and went to me. I didn't ever really listen to it that much often after that. But yeah, so that's these 2 are forever going to be at the lowest spots. I just don't see these 2 albums for me ever changing on my list. Just bad execution, albums that just didn't really resonate with me. Now, number 4 and number 3, I've swapped here and there. Right now, this is how I'm feeling, though. Number 4 is The Off Season. I loved The Off Season. We're getting to the point where this album is like, when we get to the 3s and 4s out of these, if we're going to rank them with rankings, like, or at least numbers and rate the albums, I'd give For Your Eyes Only like a 3 out of 10. I'd give KOD like a 5 out of 10. And now we're getting to the good to great albums to, classic, which J. Cole has, which I talked about earlier in the podcast. So number 4 is The Off Season. This is where the last straw for me with J. Cole, where I was like, he came with For Your Eyes Only, didn't like it. He came with KOD, didn't like it. Now he's got one more chance to make me like his music again. If he misses with this, I don't care for J. Cole. And he didn't miss. I love this album. I mean, let's see. Let's go all over these tracks. 95 South, great introduction to the album. My Life with 21 Savage and Murray, great album. Pride is the Devil, that's my shit. Gotta hold on me. Pride is the Devil, interlude. The Climb Back, Hunger on the Hillside, Applying Pressure. It's got damn near every track that's good, man. It's got a few that I don't like, but other than that, a great album, man. I think it's a 7.5 to probably 7 out of 10, I want to say. Maybe even 8 certain days. But this is where I flip-flop. So number 3, I got Cold World, the Sideline Story at number 3. And these 2 albums I flip-flop with the Off Season and Cold World, because there's some days where I'm just feeling the Off Season more than the Cold World album. And the Cold World album right now, I have it at number 3 because there's a lot of dope tracks on this album that I always go back to, and it might be nostalgia reasons, because I remember when he dropped this album, I actually purchased it in stores. A lot of J. Cole albums I actually purchased in stores, which I can't say the same for Drake and Kendrick Lamar. For J. Cole, I actually went and purchased this album. So during the early stages, I was like straight up J. Cole. I didn't care for Kendrick or Drake. I listened to Drake and Kendrick, but like I was straight J. Cole. I bought the Cold World album. I bought Born Sinner. I even bought For Your Eyes Only without even listening to it. I went straight to the store and purchased it. I have the CD somewhere. I wish I could show you guys. But like that's how much of a J. Cole fan I was. I bought Forest Hills. I think I bought Forest Hills Drive. I probably didn't, which is crazy. That's probably the only album that I actually didn't buy from J. Cole, like physical CD. But yeah, this album gives a little bit of nostalgia feeling for me, so it might be because of that. But overall, this album is packed with just great music, man. You got Can't Get Enough, whatever that sample is with Trey Songz. Great record. Lights Please, which is a mixtape cut that made it on an album. Amazing. Mr. Nice Watch, my God, that beat is disgusting. J. Cole, God bless your soul. You killed it. Or Cole, I think J. Cole produced it. It looks like Cole on here. Jay-Z fucking, killed it. Knocked that shit out the park. In the Morning with Drake, fire. Lost Ones, oh my God, another mixtape record that landed on the album. Well, it wasn't. It was actually previewed. A lot of people wanted it, and then you put it on the album, and it's the storytelling on that is amazing. Nobody's Perfect. Missy Elliott, insane execution. Workout for me, Workout. Even the iTunes bonus track, Who that, bitch, I got that flame. I love that record, man. That beat is insane. I believe other ones too. I could be naming, not naming. Dollar and a Dream 3, Cold World, the title track. Yeah. So this album, damn near, I think there's only probably like 3 tracks I don't like, maybe 4. It is a great album. It's an 8 out of 10 for me, 100%. I enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. And it is number 3 on my list. Number 2, 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I mean, for a lot of people, this is J. Cole's best album, and it is his most commercially successful album. It didn't have the biggest first week sales, but overall, it's become his most commercially successful album because it's got what is it, that fucking record, man? Rest in peace, Uncle Phil, No Role Models. Obviously, that record just fucking skyrocketed him to a next level. The whole album I love. January 28th. I don't like White Dreams. It's just one of those tracks where I'm just like, what the fuck? 03 Adolescent, The Tale of Two Cities. My God, that beat is disgusting. Firing Squad. JOMD. Love that. No Role Models. Apparently Love Yours. My God, I love that record. That is one of those records where damn near puts tears in my eyes. I love that track. Note to Self, and then he did the 10-year anniversary edition, which was really cool. But for that album itself, 13 tracks, it probably has 1, maybe 2 misses on it. So it's damn near a classic. Damn near. You guys know my classic rules is not skip a single track and still have replay value. And this album clearly has a replay value. There's just like Wet Dreams, not really a big fan of. And I think Saint Tropez is another one. I could be wrong because I did listen to this album. I think I skipped either Note to Self or Saint Tropez. I listened to it a couple of days ago. I might have skipped one of those. But yeah, it basically has 2 skips on it, which isn't much. So it's damn near. It's a 9 out of 10, almost 9.5 to me. I love this album, though. So it is number 2 on my list. And, of course, number 1, if you guys know me, you guys know my classics list. And this actually makes a classic for me, Born Sinner. I mean, like, come on, man. The way this album starts out is just Illuminati. I just joined Illuminati. Fuck everybody. Like, it's an amazing album. I love Cole's production. I know people kind of get mad whenever J. Cole produces. They're not really a fan of it. He produced the shit out of this album. My God, every track is amazing. From the skits, Land of the Snakes, Power Trip, Mo Money, Interlude, Trouble, Runaway, She Knows, Rich Guys, Where's Jermaine, Forbidden Fruit with Kendrick Lamar, Chaining Day, Ain't That Some Shit, that's an interlude. That's an interlude and it's still fire. Crooked Smile, Let Nas Down, Born Sinner, the title track. Come on, man. And then you look at the bonus tracks, man. Miss America, fire. New York Times, fire. 50 Kill That Hook. Is She Gon' Pop, fire. Guys, no. I'm saying guys, but it's really the N-word. No. Sparks Will Fly. Come on, man. Like, there's no misses on this album. I think J. Cole should have won the Grammy. I think J. Cole literally, like, I think he was battling the sales battle with Kanye. I think Kanye and Big Sean. I could be wrong. Somebody released at the same time. So it was Kanye, J. Cole, Kanye, all release on the same day. Because I think Kanye dropped Yeezus. Mac Miller. So there you go, my bad. I don't know why I said Big Sean. So Mac Miller, J. Cole, and Kanye West all released on the same day. Really cool. Yeezus was pretty decent. I didn't hate the album, but at the time, I think it was ahead of its time. But yeah, this is J. Cole's best album. I think anybody, I can understand if you say, 2014 Forest Hills Drive, but any other album, if you put above Born Sinner or 2014 Forest Hills, I just can't understand it. But I can understand 2014 Forest Hills being somebody's favorite. But that's my list, man. That's my list, ranking J. Cole's albums. Number 1 is Born Sinner, straight up classic, 10 out of 10. Number 2 is Forest Hills Drive, 9.5 out of 10. Number 3, Cold World, The Sideline Story, 9 out of 10. Number 4, The Offseason, 8.5 to sometimes 9 out of 10. Number 5, KOD, about a 5 out of 10. And number 6, For Your Eyes Only, goes from 2 to 3 out of 10. I just don't like that album at all. Probably 1 or 2 tracks that I can actually enjoy on that album. That's my ranking. Let me know what you guys think. I think that is a hell of a list, and I think it's very, very good. I think most people, for the most part, would agree that KOD or For Your Eyes Only is among J. Cole's weakest albums. I think most people would agree. I don't know, maybe KOD for a lot of people, because some people love For Your Eyes Only. I've said millions of times I don't like that album. I hate it. But a lot of people responded, man, I think it's a great, the way he execute all this. So, but for KOD, I really don't see any arguments of anybody really enjoying that album a lot and making an argument that it's J. Cole's best. So that's my list. Let me know what you guys think. I enjoyed listening to these albums. Got some nostalgia, especially Born Sinner, of course. But yeah, I was listening to them for, I believe, 2 weeks. And then I ended up listening to Relapse and including it on my classics list. But yeah, that's my ranking. Let me know what your guys' ranking is. Continuing on, let's get into the Billboard Hot 100. And Bruno Mars is still at number 1 with I Just Might. Number 2 is Man I Need, Olivia Dean. Number 3, The Fate of Ophelia, Taylor Swift. Number 4, Golden, Hunter X. Number 5, Ordinary, Alex Warren. Number 6, Choosing Texas, Ella Langley. Number 7, Back to Friends, Somber. Number 8, Folded, Kalani. Number 9, End of Beginning, Joe. Number 8, Ophelia Light, Taylor Swift. Going down the list, What You Saying, Lil Uzi Vert. WGFT Gunna, number 16. Going down the list, Chris Brown, It Depends, number 22. ASAP Rocky, Stay Here for Life, number 23 debut. Number 24 debut, Helicopter, ASAP Rocky. That album, I haven't listened to it, but I heard a preview on the Joe Budden podcast. It sounds like Dookie Water, and you might say I'm a hater, but it is what it is. BX The Plug, Hell at Night, number 28. ESD Kid, 4 Raws, number 32. Stole Your Flow, ASAP Rocky, number 33 debut. Trap Queen, Fetty Wap, re-entered at number 37. You know what's crazy? Trap Queen never went number 1 and peaked at number 2. That's crazy. That should have been a number 1 record, man. That was really close. Back then, it was harder to get number 1s. FDO, Pusha number 41. ASAP Rocky, Order of Protection, number 54. ASAP Rocky, Punk Rocky, number 56. ASAP Rocky, Playa, number 59. Airtime, Cardi B, number 61. Stop Snitching, ASAP Rocky, number 62. Bruce Wayne, NBA Youngboy, number 63. No Trespassing, ASAP Rocky, number 65. Shot Calling, NBA Youngboy, number 71. Don't Be Dumb / Trip Baby, number 73. ASAP Rocky. Take Me Through There, Metro Boomin, number 76. That song's been on that like number 70s for a long ass time, man. The Metro Boomin record. Head Tap, NBA Youngboy, number 80. Air Force, ASAP Rocky, number 81. Another Episode, NBA Youngboy, number 83. Phantom, ESD Kid, number 87. ASAP Rocky, Whiskey, number 88. Don't Kill the Party, Ty Dolla $ign, number 89. It's an old record, but it somehow went back on the charts. Probably TikTok or some shit. Antisocial, NBA Youngboy, number 90. Mr. Trendsetter, number 93, Lil Baby. Doechii and SZA, Girl Get Up, number 98. And of course, that Ice Spice record fell off the charts because it debuted at number 100. But they're still going to count it. Oh, it's a Hot 100 entry. Oh my God. You know how it is. But yeah, that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. I hope I made it up to you guys because I missed that episode. Ranked J. Cole's album, gave you my classics list updated, and news, of course. But that's it for today's episode. Stream us, Spotify, Deezer, Podcast, YouTube, all that. Have an amazing night, day, whenever you listen to this, and peace.